Welcome to this training on 17 mistakes Jewish professionals are making that keep them from changing their body fat set point, looking more athletic, having energy, and feeling like they have control of their physique. Now, before I even start, I want to preface this, okay? One of the biggest reasons why I've made the transition into helping Jewish professionals is because there's so many things that are intertwined between faith and fitness. And they're almost like guiding principles. If you go from a faith perspective, you translate that into fitness. It's something that I feel like we all have deep down in us. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be on this video in the first place. And this can also translate to other religions as well, but I am Jewish, all right? My family are Sephardic Jews from Spain. Migrated over to Venezuela where my mother was born. And the reason why my last name is Jaramillo is because my dad's side came into the picture. They came in from Colombia. So although American, I have Latino descent and I'm also Jewish. So I find that very interesting. I like sharing that because my story allows other people who are maybe Latino Jews or Jews across the pond in other countries. It allows them to find me. It allows them to know that, there's other people like them out there. And I'm very proud of my heritage, culture, my religion, and I love tying that into fitness. So what I'm going to do today is shortcut all of the mistakes that usually are made in someone's fitness journey, and I'm just going to give it to you very straight up. Okay. The reason why you'd want to stick around till the end of this video is because even just one of these mistakes can keep someone stuck for 10 years plus easily. Okay. I have plenty of guys who joined the program in their late 30s and 40s, and a lot of them have been struggling with at least one of these 17 things for years. Okay. And before I get started, why would you listen to me? Well, these are just some of the examples that I have here on transformations, successful transformations that we have a part of the coaching program. I want to start with myself first because my biggest goal was to change my body fat set point. And what that means is that I wanted to no longer be 240 pounds. And I'm 5'8", so I'm not the tallest guy in the world. And one of the biggest things that I wanted to do was make my new normal somewhere around the 200-pound mark. Right now, today, I was 201. I've been around the 200-pound mark for almost 3 years now, which means that I've successfully changed my set point, okay? Same thing for a lot of my other clients. We have Max here who was able to lose a pretty good amount of weight, but he put on a lot more muscle, okay? Joey here lost more than 35 pounds from left to right. Eric here was able to lose more than 25 pounds. And Juan, these photos are actually reversed. This is his starting photo right here. And this is the photo that he took at the very end of our program. More than 30 pounds lost here. So everything that I'm sharing with you today is not just like theory. It's not things that I just like looked up online. These are genuine mistakes that most people make, all right? So let's get right into everything here. So this chart right here is going to make it very easy for me to tell you exactly what mistakes you're probably making and are stuck with. And the very first thing that we're going to do is the mindset and lifestyle, okay? Just like, let's compare this to money. If a lot of earners usually lose all the money within a couple years because they don't have these skills to maintain them, to maintain the amount of money, right? It takes discipline, skill. It takes a certain mindset with your view of money in order to make it, keep it, invest it, grow it. And fitness is no different. If I handed you your dream body right now and you had all of the same habits and rituals that you currently have in your lifestyle, you would just gain all the weight back, and that's no good. So the very first thing that we'll discuss is the all or nothing mindset. Now, the reason why I want to talk about the all or nothing mindset is because true progress requires balance and discipline. Your life is not perfect. It never will be perfect. There will always be something around the corner that will tell you, oh, it's not the right time to do this. And that is what keeps people stuck. I've had someone that has been using that same excuse for like more than 10 years. And I finally got on a call with them and I was like, listen, man, you've been saying that same shit for 10 years. Like, when are you going to accept that it's never going to be a right time? And it was something that pushed him over that line because he looked himself in the mirror. He just he could only agree, you know? He had nothing else to say. Chasing motivation instead of building systems. And this is one that's definitely a little bit more technical, but we want to make sure that we create automatic habits. An example of this is supplementation. So many people forget to take supplements, so putting it next to their coffee that they have every single morning is a form of habit stacking. That's just one of the tools that we use inside of our program to deliver good results. But this is something that you can do from here moving forward. Stack your habits to make sure that it's super simple for you to stick to something. Leave your clothes out the night before that you know you're going to the gym. I still do this. I have 11 years of experience in the gym, and I am still the one setting my clothes up the night before. You would think that, oh, Alan has like so much more discipline than I do. He probably doesn't need to like do all this small stuff. I still do the small things every single day, and that's why I am consistent, okay? Tying your self-worth to the scale. When it comes to changing your body fat set point, there will be times where the scale weight won't move. There will be times where it'll look stuck, but you're actually still changing your physique. And so I like to track things like body fat, strength, energy, as well as like how you feel in your clothing, okay? Like if this shirt before fit me a certain way, and now it's starting to get tighter around my arms, now it's starting to fill out my chest, I'm gonna be very happy about that. And that's something that I think everyone should keep in mind. The fourth thing is ignoring sleep and recovery. Now, so many Jewish professionals, they work their face off, okay? Willpower is not something that most Jews lack. And in fact, it could actually work against them because they work themselves into the ground. I mean, just take a look at the people around you, okay? I was talking to a client who's a lawyer, and I told him to take a look around the people in his office, okay? All the guys, some of them Jewish, some of them not. But look at what their habits got them, because that's you in 25 years. And this hit him so hard, man. It was a very big turning point in our time working together, and he's been consistent ever since. So very, very important, okay? Treating rest as a luxury keeps hormones and fat loss stuck, and that's because hormones play a huge role in fat loss as well as building muscle like testosterone. You'll have lower test if you're not getting good sleep. And also, recovery is also making sure that you have boundaries around your workload, okay? Not managing stress intentionally is something a lot of people that are very, success-oriented individuals are very bad at this, all right? Because all you can think about is work. All you want to do is make a difference. All you want to do is create impact. I get that. I totally resonate with that. But coping through food, alcohol, and work is only going to kind of kick the ball down the road. Okay, by doing all these things, you're actually half-assing the work that you want to excel so much at. And people are always so shocked as to how much getting their mind and body right impacts their ability to make money, to improve their cognitive output, their memory improves, their energy. They don't have slumps throughout the day. It's a lot steadier. I hear this all the time from clients. So it's something that you definitely do not want to make a mistake of, okay? Lack of identity alignment. This one's a little bit deeper. If you see yourself as out of shape instead of a fit high performer, the mental toll that takes on you translates to literally everything in your life. This is one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people make. And here's what this looks like. Let's say you're in a sales role, you're a lawyer, and you know that you're dropping the ball on your health and fitness. You know that you don't feel your best. That literally impacts every time that you speak, every time that you walk into a room, because there is a presence associated. There's a presence associated with you feeling fit, looking good, and performing well. That is a presence. It's a feeling. And guess what? People notice that. If you feel unconfident, and you feel like you're down here because of where your physique is at and how you feel in your dress clothes, it's going to be noticed. And it's something that so many people tell me, like when they finally get in shape, like, wow, this is so much better than what I was dealing with before. And I can totally see why. Okay. That wraps up the mindset and lifestyle mistakes. Now we're going to get into training mistakes, and we're going to leave off with nutrition because that is by far the biggest one. Training mistakes, trying to outwork bad nutrition. Okay. We all know that it takes 30 seconds to eat a chocolate bar. It takes about 35 minutes of hard, intense exercise to burn 200 to 300 calories worth of calories in general. And more cardio and longer gym sessions, they can also raise stress and burn muscle. And the reason why that happens is because, cardio in general isn't going to build you much muscle. All right. In fact, if that's your only strategy because you just like the way it makes you feel, you like the sweating, you want to make sure that you're exerting yourself a certain amount because you're using your willpower to basically try and work harder instead of smarter, I promise you're only digging a deeper hole for yourself. And the reason for that is because building a fat loss efficient machine, it takes muscle. That makes the biggest difference. Plus, no one ever got toned by just doing cardio, okay? People get soft just doing cardio, all right? This one's one of my favorites. Training like a college kid instead of a professional, all right? Back when I was in school, and even high school, I was training 6 days a week. I was in the gym for 2.5 hours. I loved it back then. But as soon as I got into like my mid-20s, that shit started to go downhill fast. And it's probably the same for you, okay? If you're someone who has a good level of work ethic, you probably have already been in the gym for years. However, you haven't gotten very intentional with it or accepted the fact that you do need to make those changes, right? High-intensity classes and muscle confusion, they do not work well for building muscle, recovery, or changing your body fat set point, and that's something that I really want you to take away from watching this training. The third is going to be sipping strength progression, okay? What this means is like you're not tracking the weight that you're doing in the gym. You're not tracking the sets and reps. You're just going in and going based off of feel. And the problem with that is that you have no structure. You have no progression plan. And it's funny because a lot of professionals do this with everything else in their life. They track their finances to a T, okay? They know their net worth. They know how much debt they have. They are very analytical from their business or their profession, and they're also analytical over their personal finances, but they're not analytical at all with their fitness. And all of these things have that in common. You cannot see progress unless you track and measure your progress. That's incredibly important. Relying on cardio for fat loss is similar to working paycheck to paycheck, as opposed to building muscle, which is more like investing in the S&P 500 over 20 to 30 years. It makes a substantial difference when you invest in a body that continues to burn calories over time. It's why you see a lot of guys like myself. I'm 200 pounds. I'm not overweight. I can see my abs. I'm not going to do that on this call, but that might be inappropriate. But you can see my body fat's pretty low. I do very little cardio. I only get 10,000 steps a day. That's how I prefer to do it. But I've built a calorie burning machine over the years, and that's why I can get away with that. And I'm also not starving myself. I eat over 2,000 calories a day. So that's one thing I want you to keep in mind. Let me explain what never taking a deload or recovery week does. Without actively resting your body, you're essentially just working yourself into the ground. Now, for a lot of people who are high achievers, they have a great job, you're progressing in that, you try to take that same type of just force yourself to do it mentality, and you apply it to fitness. But here's the thing that you're not considering, okay? Your body does not work like your job, okay? And your body needs recovery, Your body needs days off. Your body needs to make sure that it's not building up too much fatigue, because otherwise you're going to be doing a crap ton of workouts and you're going to be putting out a lot of effort, but you are not going to see your body change. Most of our clients start seeing results doing a lot less work than what they think they need to do, which is a total game changer. Okay. And not training for the physique that you want is also trainability, and the law of specificity is very important. Okay. The law of specificity basically states that if you, for example, are interested in building muscle and dropping body fat, Pilates or going to a HIIT cardio class is not the most effective way to do that. Now, one thing that a lot of people notice, and this is something that clients say to me, is like, I noticed that my instructor doesn't really do the workouts that he's teaching. Yeah. The reason for that is because it's not the most effective way to change your physique. Okay. I use cardio classes sparingly. I enjoy them, but I know what they're used for. Okay. Bodybuilding style workouts, or in our case, we use a 3-phase framework with our workouts. In the first phase, we focus on neurological response, which basically means that we're having our clients really slow down the tempo of their movements in order to recruit more muscle fibers and get good at exercises. The second phase is strictly hypertrophy phase, which means that we're focused on strictly adding muscle size. This is going to help with fat loss by increasing your metabolic rate and giving you shape. And it'll also obviously help with muscle building, because this is the most effective way to build muscle. We do this in the gym or at your home gym, and we customize it totally based on what you have. And number 3 is a metabolic phase. Okay. Metabolic phase basically means that we're increasing your lactic threshold. Okay. We are getting your body used to a lot of work in a short amount of time so that we can translate this into bigger PRs later down the road. And what I want you to kind of look at this as is we're desensitizing yourself from different styles of workout. Okay. Now, confusing the muscle is total BS. But what we do is we take the same exercises, okay? We can definitely have variety in there, but they're working out the same muscle groups. And what we do is we're desensitizing from phase 1 to now phase 2. Once we get used to phase 2, we desensitize from that and we go to phase 3, and then we repeat. And that is how we build a crap ton of muscle for our clients. Now let's get into the nutrition mistakes. And if you've stayed with me until this point, this is where it's going to get even more beneficial from you. Out of all the clients that we have, we've worked with over 622 guys at this point and delivered successful transformations. Nutrition is by far the hardest for everyone, and it's something that most people just totally skip over. They think they can outwork a bad diet, okay? You can't, as I covered in this point right here. So, over-restricting after weekends. This all or nothing mentality, okay? We're going to get to that. But over-restricting after your weekends is one of the worst things that you can do, because it starts this never-ending cycle of overeating and starving. And here's what this usually looks like. Maybe you got Shabbat, you have a huge family dinner, that translates into you just overeating the entire weekend and eating a lot of foods that are very high in fat and not really focusing too much on protein. And what this causes is for you to feel very guilty on Sunday, even more guilty on Monday. And what you're going to try and do in order to repair that or try and counteract it is you're going to do a lot of cardio, because willpower is not a problem, right? You're just going to do a lot of work, and all that's going to do is make you even hungrier, because one thing that not many people know about cardio is it's going to increase your hunger. That's personally why I don't do a lot of it, because if I was doing an Ironman or I was doing, swimming every single day, I would be starving at night. And I prefer to get the best results with the least amount of work, because that's what works and that's what's sustainable. So this never-ending cycle only gets worse the more you do it. So it's kind of ass backwards, but try eating a healthy amount of food Monday through Thursday so that you don't overeat on the weekends. Okay, it's a mindset shift. It takes some time. Guessing on your macros is a huge mistake. Now, if you're not aware, proteins, carbohydrates, and fats are your macros. They make up the calories in the food that you eat. For example, peanut butter has higher fat than it does protein and carbs. For an average serving of peanut butter, it's about 16 grams of fat, 8 grams of protein, and 5 grams of carbohydrates, okay? Now, you may be wondering, why is this important to know? Because if you want to change your muscle to fat ratio and change your body fat set point, it is extremely important to track macros instead of total calories, because every macro plays a huge role in your ability to make this transformation. And here's what I mean. If you have a certain amount of protein, you can recover and build muscle or even retain muscle during a fat loss phase. If you have a certain amount of carbohydrates, you can guarantee energy, steady energy, every single day when you go to the gym, when you go to the workout. And also, not many people know this, but carbohydrates are protein sparing, which means that the more carbohydrates that you have during a fat loss phase, the more muscle you retain. Not many people know that one. Fats play a huge role in hormonal health, specifically testosterone, and fat is actually necessary for our survival. We cannot live without fat because of the role it plays in our hormones. So by tracking these things, it makes a substantial difference. And you may wonder, why not just like eat healthy? Well, eat healthy isn't a number. Just like you wouldn't try and save for a house by saying, oh, I'm just going to like save up. Like, you got to know what your down payment is. So that way you can reverse engineer how many months it's going to take to get to that goal, right? You don't do your finances or track your budget or make a financial investment without looking at the numbers. You can't do that with fitness, okay? I know it's people's tendency to do it, but tracking your fitness, tracking your nutrition, your training is not restrictive. It is absolutely not restrictive. It will give you so much freedom you have no idea. Ask me if I feel restrictive, okay, since you asked. I don't feel restricted because I still go out to eat 2 to 3 times a week. I still go out on date nights. I still enjoy alcohol. I still enjoy all of my favorite sweets. And that's because I have clarity on my numbers. I know what I can and cannot eat. And I don't look at things through healthy or not healthy. I focus on eating nutrient-dense foods 80 to 90% of the time. And then I have my flexible treats as well. And guess what? My results don't change. My results only get better over time. They do not suffer as a result of me eating some of these foods like sweets or fattier foods, you know, those kind of things, all right? And the difference between calories and macros is if I just said, hey, yeah, eat 2,000 calories worth of healthy food, and you think avocados are healthy, they definitely have nutrient dense, they're nutrient dense, so they are healthy. But if you had 2,000 calories worth of avocado and 2,000 calories worth of equal amounts of or proper amounts of proteins, carbs, and fats, that's a very different result. Okay, you get very different results because one has a crap ton of fat in it and one has proteins, carbs, fats. Okay, that's very important. That's why I spent so much time on that topic. Skipping meals during work is a very, very amongst professionals. Okay, what this does, it leads to overnight eating. Okay, or overeating at night. Excuse me, and fat storage due to stress. All right, now the only thing that will store fat is being in a calorie deficit or a calorie surplus. Excuse me. That's the only thing. So what I mean by that is if you skip meals at work, a lot of times what you're doing is creating a stressed out version of yourself because your body wants nutrients, it needs nutrients. And honestly, if you're not hungry during the day, that's a telltale sign that you are stressed the F out, okay? So one thing that you have to continue to do is try your best to feed yourself during the day so that when you get home at night, the stress isn't so overwhelming that you force feed yourself. And keep in mind, when you are getting less sleep and you have a high workload and your stress is out of control, your body will allocate energy to certain parts of your day and certain parts of your body to try and make up for that lack of recovery and stress. And that's why people tend to overeat, okay? It's a chain reaction, all right? Weekend free-for-alls. I love this one because it's very common in the Jewish culture, specifically because Shabbat's on a Friday, and you're like, let's go all weekend long, eat whatever's in sight. And what this causes is, again, the cycle of over-restricting after weekends. And free-for-alls are basically a breeding ground for binging problems. And I struggled with binging my entire life because of this exact reason. And that's because I looked at the weekends like, wow, this is where I get to eat all this food. And if you're anything like me and you grew up with a lot of guilt around food, some people call it Jewish guilt, definitely a true stereotype there. But weekend free-for-alls only make this problem worse. And it's because there's a lack of intention, and that erases like the structure that you have during the entire week. Okay, so if you're waiting until Friday and you have a big appetite like me, you are always going to overeat. Okay, and the very last mistake out of the 17 mistakes keeping Jewish professionals out of shape is cutting carbs too aggressively. This is something that so many people do, and in fact, there's so many amazing foods that have carbohydrates, one of them being challah. We got rice, pita. You got all your favorite foods. Why would we cut those? Why? Okay. Fast weight loss affects testosterone, strength, and clarity. So here's another cycle. Okay. When you cut carbs, carbohydrates do play a role in water retention, but not in the way that you think. A lot of people think when they have a lot of carbs, like, oh my God, I'm like so watery and fat. That's not what happens. When you ingest carbohydrates, they go straight to the muscle and they're used for energy. They're also stored in the liver as well. And so the only way that you would ever gain fat from eating carbs is if you're in a calorie surplus. No other way. So if you're not in a calorie surplus and you have carbs, you're not going to gain fat. It's a scientific fact. If you believe in science, you have to believe in this, okay? Because it's true. And when you cut carbs, not only are you getting rid of a large amount of calories, because that's where a lot of your calories were probably coming from before you did that, but you are also reducing the amount of water absorption. So on the scale, it might look like, hey, I just lost 10 pounds. This is amazing. But it's not really what you think. And that rapid weight loss, losing weight too quickly, will result in lack of strength, which means your muscle is going to go down. And you might look like a melted ice cream cone by the end of your fat loss phase. And carbohydrates also play a huge role in testosterone and clarity from a cognitive perspective, okay? Now, I hope you enjoyed this training here about the 17 mistakes Jewish professionals are making that are keeping them overweight, unhealthy, stressed. And if you're someone who wants more information on how our coaching process works, I'm very straightforward about these things, and I just like to have conversations with people. So if having a conversation with me is something that you're interested in because you're wondering about, how coaching works, what is so great about online coaching, and you want to finally change your body and have control over it after all of the methods that you've tried over the years, our average client, no joke, has tried 6 to 10 different things before working with us, okay? And this is truly different, and I'll explain why. We do not just say, hey, we're going to lose 20 pounds and that's it. We have a 3-phase process that we use to guarantee weight loss and fat loss. Most important thing, most coaches are like, yeah, we're just going to lose weight. No. We want to retain muscle and lose fat. That's very specific. We have a 3-phase framework that we use to do that. The first phase is about metabolic priming. That's us getting your body used to more food so that you can build more muscle and set you up for success in your fat loss phase. Phase 2 is the fat loss phase, and that is specific because we intentionally only do 3 to 4 months of that so that we're not overdoing it. How many times have you felt like you started a diet and you're like, yeah, I've been dieting for the last 20 years, right? Because there's never a point where you feel satisfied. So that's why we have to enforce that so that we can change your body fat set point. And number 3 is the reverse dieting phase. That is how we get your body used to more food at the lower body fat that we worked so hard to get to, okay? This is different. This is not Whole30. This is not Peloton workouts. This is everything under the sun that you need. And of course, the accountability to do it. Coaching is a back and forth relationship. We understand that. This is not a $10 app where you just get a bunch of information and you have no one to hold you accountable to do that. This is not that. Okay, so if that's what you're looking for, please, this is definitely not for you. But if what you're looking for is accountability, a structured plan, something that you know is going to work, something that's guaranteed to work, okay, then reach out. Let's have a conversation. Let's chat over Zoom. I'm very involved with clients, so I always am the one that speaks to everyone before they ever come into our program. And so I prefer to chat face-to-face over Zoom. Hope you're comfortable with that. And if you have any further questions, drop them down below. Message after this. And feel free to reach out and use the link down below to book a call with us or an application. So let's start with having a conversation first, and we can go from there. But really no pressure. And if you just want to take this information, use it, and get results on your own, all power to you, okay? This information is for you to use and excel your own fitness journey. And hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.